Hello everyone, we're taking an early look ahead to Monday night's at Brownlow. We will be doing a live pre-count show where we take a look at our markets and predictions, and also the Stats Insider modelling and what it all points to for the night of nights for AFL players and a key part of Brownlow week. Darren Parkin is my name. Todd Davey has been a part of Trade Talk for Stats Insider. And Todd, some exciting markets. There's plenty on offer on the Betfair exchange, and your team have worked really hard to put all of the calculations together.
Yeah, a lot of hard work's gone into this one. All hands on deck leading into the Brownlow. Really proud of the work we've put in, and Betfair's been a great partner to us. Lots of great markets to discuss and plenty of value to be found, guys.
Yeah, and you look at that value. I mean, the watch all year had been on Nick Daicos at the top, who was extremely short, gets injured in round 19 and misses the last 5 games of the season. Won't get votes in that game where he was injured either, so that's another one. He's drifted out to $3.05 on the exchange, but is still favourite, but only just over Marcus Bontempelli. If we are looking at value, that's an early place to start, because Stats Insider have that gap a little bit bigger than the exchange overall between Daicos and Bontempelli.
Yeah, so on the exchange, you would have remembered Marcus Bontempelli came into favouritism based on Nick Daicos' injury, but the Stats Insider Brownlow Medal Guide only has him polling potentially 3 votes in 1 game of the last 5. So he didn't make up that ground that we expected. There's still some pretty good movement for our value play of Zach Butters and Christian Petrarca, but Bontempelli didn't make the move expected. So we still have Nick Daicos as the most likely player to win the 2023 Brownlow medal.
Yeah, tying that into the market on the exchange for most votes in the last 8 rounds, which, you know, Bontempelli is going to be behind Nick Daicos with 8 rounds to go. Errol Goulden is actually the favourite in that market at about $1.60. Bontempelli's second favourite a bit further back at $3.80, nearly $4. So has he done enough to chase down Nick Daicos? Obviously, we're going to find out. It'll go down to the wire. But a little bit of value on Stats Insider for Nick Daicos, whose gap may be a little bit too much to catch at that point. The other fascinating watches based on probabilities, which people can play throughout the course of the night, is leaders after round 5 and 10 and 15, etc. And Stats Insider, speaking of Nick Daicos, he does start the season in pretty hot fashion.
He does, and it's going to be really interesting to see how he polls across those first 5 rounds. There is a bit of a cliche in Brownlow medal talk that it takes the umpires a little while to catch up, and that could be reflected with Daicos. We have him as the player to be leading at the end of round 5, at $1.65. But we've still got some hot competition for Clayton Oliver and Darcy Parish. Both guys have finished top 5 in the Brownlow before, proven vote getters, so they could bridge the gap. But Nick Daicos is expected to get away to a flyer.
And those things are important, because if Nick Daicos doesn't lead after 5 rounds, he probably won't win, because he won't have that cushion early in the count. So you start looking at that in terms of the big picture and what all of that means for the count. The other fascinating watch, if you look at the round 10 market, it's about when Clayton Oliver got injured. So that's another one to take a look at. But most votes per team, and this is quite interesting, because obviously some of them you take players out. So most votes minus Bontempelli, most votes minus Petrarca, most votes minus Daicos. And Stats Insider have run the numbers with, you know, a large degree of probabilities around all of those sides.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Some very familiar names popping up. We've got Brisbane without Lachie Neale. That's Josh Dunkley in that market. Collingwood without Daicos to go. But it's really interesting. It's typically known as a midfielder's medal, but we've got a lot of key forwards and forwards here that are going to pop up if it goes as expected, with Charlie Curnow, 75.8% probability to head the count for Carlton. James Sicily down back for Hawthorn, 55.1% probability to top it for Hawthorn. And then we look to GWS, and it's Toby Green, 78.6% probability to lead the charge for GWS, which is really interesting given it's often mooted as a midfielder's medal, but these 3 guys are expected to top the count for their teams.
And Jeremy Cameron jumps out there too, so 75.2% at Geelong, but also significantly started the year very well. He kicked 7 in a losing side against Carlton, kicked 6 against Hawthorn on the Easter Monday game. So if the umpires looked favourably upon that early in the year, he might even be a dark horse for a round 5 leader. But yeah, very good chance, because when he played well, I think he kicked 7 in a loss to Collingwood as well. So the only thing that would count against him is a lot of those bags of goals happened in games where they were just beaten. But this also brings in ineligible players, like Zach Merritt's going to poll a heck of a lot of votes in the Brownlow. Obviously can't win it due to suspension, so he's an interesting one to watch. And Jordan De Goey, obviously minus Nick Dacos, another one who would be otherwise ineligible. Nick Larkey had a dominant season. How does Harry Sheasel go? There's so much to look at in terms of those probabilities over the course of it. Where do you feel overall at this point that the best advantage sits on Stats Insider? Is it still Dacos overall? I mean, I've been big on Lachie Neale all year at being a better price than he is. He's about 18 on the exchange, but Stats Insider, like we do, have him a little bit shorter than that.
It's really interesting. The players you touched on ineligible. First off, we got Caleb Sarong for Fremantle. He's at 58.6% probability to finish top 5. So some good value there for Caleb in a disappointing season for Fremantle. But there's 3 players that stand out in the value plays for us. So it's Zach Butters from Port Adelaide at $6.20 on the Betfair exchange. Christian Petrarca at $7.80. And as you mentioned, Lachie Neale, $18 right now. Proven vote getter. Consistent year without being absolutely brilliant, but he's a proven vote getter, and Neale could pop up with all those wins for Brisbane, top 4 finish. He will figure prominently in the votes.
Yeah, Lachie Neale's $1.62 for top 5, which looks a tremendous price, I think, overall. Even Errol Goulden from Sydney's $3 in that market. He's certainly a chance to finish with a flurry and land himself into a very good position. So we have got our live pre-show on Monday. Tom Haylock will join us for that as well. There'll be frequent updates throughout the course of the night in terms of what the predictor says, in terms of what the market has done in response to all of this. If people want to check it out before we start and see the Stats Insider modelling, how can they do that?
You visit statsinsider.com.au/AFL/Brownlow, and we'll have the downloadable Brownlow guide with round-by-round previews for every single game. And we've got all the teams broken down, all the main contenders, and all the main markets you'd want on the Betfair exchange. So plenty for the punters to get through, and the Betfair exchange and Stats Insider partnership just goes from strength to strength.
It does. So if you're sitting on the couch or you're at home, just have the laptop open, watch our pre-show, have the Stats Insider model open on one and the exchange open to jump on that value before it does get snapped up. So we look forward to bringing you that on Monday. Can't wait. Chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.